Have you ever felt that everyone had stopped believing in you? Have you ever worked hard for many days, but still found nothing? What if one final journey could change everything? Today, you will hear the story of an old woman who refused to give up. She was poor. She was alone. Many people thought her best days were over. But one morning, she sailed into the open sea. What happened next changed her life forever. This is not just a story about the sea. It is a story about courage. It is a story about hope. It is a story about never giving up. Stay with me until the end, because this simple story may change the way you think about failure. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to English Horizon. Today, you will hear an original story called The Old Woman and the Sea. I will use easy English. I will speak slowly. Listen carefully. Relax and enjoy the story. This story is written for English learners, so do not worry if you do not understand every word. Just listen. Just enjoy. Now, let's begin. On the edge of a quiet village near the blue sea lived an old woman named Maria. She was 70 years old. Her small wooden house stood close to the beach. Every morning, she woke up before sunrise. She looked at the sea. She smiled. Then she prepared her little fishing boat. For many years, Maria had lived from the sea. The sea gave her food. The sea gave her work. The sea gave her hope. But recently, everything had changed. For many days, she returned home with an empty boat. Some people felt sorry for her. Others whispered, "She is too old now. She should stop fishing." Maria heard their words, but she said nothing. She simply looked at the sea. Deep inside her heart, she believed that one more journey could change everything. And on the next morning, before the sun touched the water, she made a decision that would change her life forever. Part 1. One more journey. The next morning, Maria woke up before the first light of day. The village was still asleep. The streets were quiet. Only the sound of the waves could be heard. A cool wind came from the sea. Maria opened her small wooden door. She looked at the dark sky. Thousands of stars were still shining. She took a deep breath. "The sea is calling me again," she whispered. Inside her house, there was very little food. Only a small piece of bread, a bottle of water, and a few dried fish. She ate a little. She wanted to save the rest for later. Then she picked up her old fishing net. The net had many small repairs. She had fixed it with her own hands many times. Next, she carried her fishing lines. Then she picked up a small wooden box. Inside the box were her fishing hooks. Some were old, some were rusty, but Maria believed they could still do their job. She walked slowly toward the beach. Her little boat waited beside the shore. The paint was old, the wood was worn, but the boat had been her friend for many years. Maria gently touched its side. "Today," she said softly, "let's do our best." She pushed the boat into the water. The cold sea touched her feet. She climbed inside. Then she began to row. Slowly, steadily, the village became smaller behind her. Soon, she could no longer hear the people. She could hear only the sea. The waves rose and fell gently. White birds flew above the water. One bird suddenly circled in the sky. Maria looked up. She smiled. "Maybe you know where the fish are," she said. She continued rowing. Farther and farther. She had never gone this far alone before. Many fishermen stayed close to the shore, but Maria wanted to try something different. She believed that the biggest opportunities were waiting where few people were willing to go. After many hours, the water became deeper. The sea became quieter. Everything around her looked endless. Maria stopped rowing. She looked around carefully. Then she slowly prepared her fishing line. She placed fresh bait on the hook. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she gently dropped the line into the deep blue sea. Now, all she could do was wait. Minutes passed. The sea remained calm. Nothing happened. Maria watched the water without moving. She knew that patience was one of a fisherman's greatest strengths. Then, very gently, the fishing line moved. Maria opened her eyes. She held the line tightly. Something deep below the water had touched the bait. She did not pull. She waited. The line moved again. This time, it moved much harder. Maria's heart began to beat faster. She whispered, "What is waiting for me beneath the sea?" Part 2. Something huge beneath the sea. Maria did not move. She held the fishing line with both hands. Her breathing became slow. Her eyes stayed on the water. The line became tight, very tight. Something was pulling it, but nothing appeared on the surface. The sea looked calm. Only the line told her that something was alive below. Maria whispered, "Not yet. Take the bait. Take it completely." For a few seconds, everything became quiet again. Then, the line suddenly rushed forward. The boat shook. Maria almost lost her balance. She quickly held the side of the boat. The fishing line slipped through her hands. She grabbed it again. The force was unbelievable. "It is huge," she whispered. "It must be huge." She did not pull with all her strength. She knew that if she pulled too hard, the line could break. Instead, she stayed calm. She let the fish swim. The small boat slowly began to move. Not because of the wind, not because of the waves, the fish was pulling it. Maria looked behind her. The village had disappeared. Only the endless sea remained. She had never felt anything like this before. The fish did not jump. It did not fight wildly. It simply kept swimming. Strong, steady, confident. Maria smiled. "You are smart," she said softly. "You have lived in this sea for many years." The fish continued to pull the boat. An hour passed, then another. The sun climbed higher into the sky. The morning became warm. Maria wiped the sweat from her face. Her hands began to hurt. The rough fishing line pressed deeply into her skin. Still, she did not let go. She drank a small sip of water. Only one sip. She did not know how long this journey would last. Above her, a white bird circled the boat. Then it flew away. The sea became very quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. Maria felt as if she and the fish were the only living creatures in the world. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she spoke to the fish. "I don't want to hurt you, but I must catch you. This is how I live." For the first time, she did not think of the fish as an enemy. She thought of it as a brave traveler, a survivor, just like herself. Hours continued to pass. The fish never stopped. The boat traveled farther into the deep blue sea. Maria's shoulders became sore. Her back ached. Her fingers felt numb, but her heart remained strong. Then, for the very first time, a huge dark shadow appeared beneath the boat. Maria looked into the clear water. Her eyes grew wide. She could not believe what she was seeing. The fish was far bigger than she had ever imagined. She took a slow breath and whispered, "This may be the greatest catch of my life." Part 3. The Long Fight. Maria could not take her eyes off the water. The shadow moved slowly beneath the boat. It was long. It was powerful. It was graceful. For a brief moment, the fish came closer to the surface. Sunlight touched its shining body. Its scales flashed like silver. Then it disappeared into the deep water again. Maria's heart was full of wonder. She had never seen such a beautiful fish. She smiled softly. "You are truly amazing," she whispered. "But today, only one of us can win." The fish swam forward again. The boat followed it across the open sea. The afternoon passed. The sun slowly moved across the sky. Maria's hands became red. The fishing line had cut her skin. Small drops of blood fell onto the wooden boat. She wrapped a piece of old cloth around her hands. It helped a little, but the pain remained. She took another small drink of water. Only a little was left. She looked at the bread in her bag. She broke off a small piece. She ate slowly. She knew she must save her strength. The fish was still strong, very strong. As evening came, the sea changed its color. The bright blue water became dark. The orange sky slowly turned purple. Soon the first stars appeared. Night had arrived. Maria looked up. The stars filled the sky. They were bright. They were beautiful. She had seen them many times before. But tonight, they felt different. They made her feel less alone. The sea was silent. The wind was gentle. Only the sound of the water touched the boat. Maria spoke quietly. "My old friend, I wonder how many storms you have survived." The fish did not answer, but it kept swimming, slowly, patiently, as if it understood every word. Maria rested for only a few minutes. She could not sleep. If she let go of the line, everything would be lost. Her arms felt heavy. Her back burned with pain. Still, she refused to give up. She remembered the people in the village. Some had laughed at her. Some had said she was too old. She smiled to herself. "They can believe what they want," she whispered. "I still believe in myself." Hours passed. The moon climbed high above the sea. Then, just before sunrise, The fish finally began to slow down. Its powerful movements became smaller. Its circles became shorter. Maria noticed the change. She tightened her grip on the line. Hope returned to her heart. She knew the hardest part of the fight was almost over, but she also knew that the most dangerous moment was still waiting. The great fish had one final chance to escape, and Maria had only one chance to catch it. Part 4. The Final Struggle. The first light of morning spread across the sea. The sky slowly turned pink. A cool breeze touched Maria's face. She had not slept all night. Her eyes were tired. Her hands were swollen. Every part of her body ached. But she was still holding the fishing line. She looked into the clear water. The great fish was swimming in wide circles. Each circle brought it a little closer to the boat. Maria took a slow, deep breath. "This is the moment," she whispered. She pulled the line gently. Not too fast, not too hard. The fish turned again. Its long silver body appeared beneath the water. It was even bigger than she had imagined. The sunlight danced across its shining scales. For a moment, Maria forgot her pain. She simply admired the beautiful creature. "You are strong," she said softly. "You have fought with all your heart." The fish came closer. Then suddenly, it made one final escape. With a powerful splash, it rushed away. The boat shook from side to side. Water poured over the edge. Maria almost fell into the sea. She grabbed the side of the boat. The fishing line burned across her hands. She closed her eyes. She refused to let go. Slowly, very slowly, the fish became tired again. Its movements grew weaker. It circled the boat once more. This time, it came close enough for Maria to see its great eye. For one quiet moment, the woman and the fish looked at each other. Neither moved. Neither made a sound. Maria felt respect, not pride, not anger, respect. She whispered, "Thank you for giving me the greatest challenge of my life." With all the strength she had left, Maria reached for her fishing spear. Her hands trembled. Her heart beat faster. She waited for the perfect moment. The fish rose beside the boat. Maria lifted the spear. She took one deep breath. Then she pushed it forward with all her strength. The sea exploded with water. The great fish fought one last time. Then, slowly, everything became still. The waves grew calm again. Maria sat quietly. She was breathing heavily. Tears filled her eyes. She had won, but she did not feel happy. She looked at the great fish beside her boat. "It is never easy," she whispered, "when someone must lose." She gently tied the great fish to the side of her small boat. It was far too large to pull inside. The fish stretched almost the full length of the boat. Maria looked toward the distant horizon. Home was still very far away. She smiled weakly. The journey isn't over yet. She picked up the oars. Then she slowly turned the boat toward the village. She did not know that another danger was already moving through the deep water. Far below the surface, something had smelled the blood, and it was coming closer. Part 5. Shadows in the Water. Maria rowed slowly toward home. The sea was calm again. The morning sun shone brightly. The great fish rested beside the boat. Its silver scales sparkled in the light. Maria looked at it with pride. Then she smiled. "We did not give up," she whispered. "You fought with courage, and so did I." For a while, everything was peaceful. The boat moved gently across the water. The wind filled the air with the smell of the sea. White birds flew above her. Maria believed the hardest part of the journey was over. She was wrong. A few minutes later, she noticed something strange. One of the birds suddenly flew away. Another bird followed it. Soon the sky became quiet. Maria looked across the water. She saw nothing. Only small waves. Only the endless blue sea. Then, a dark fin appeared. It cut through the water like a sharp knife. Maria stopped rowing. Her heart beat faster. The fin disappeared. A moment later, it appeared again. This time, it was closer. Maria knew exactly what it was. "A shark," she whispered. She quickly picked up her fishing spear. She held it tightly. The shark swam around the boat. Once, twice. Then it disappeared beneath the water. Maria could no longer see it. She looked from side to side. She listened carefully. The sea became silent, too silent. Suddenly, the boat shook. The shark attacked. Its powerful jaws bit into the great fish. Water splashed high into the air. Maria raised her spear. With all the strength she had left, she struck the shark. The shark pulled away. The sea turned white with foam. For a few seconds, the battle was over. Then the water became calm again. Maria looked at the great fish. A large piece of its side was gone. She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You deserved better." She knew the smell of blood was now spreading through the sea, and where there was blood, more sharks would come. Maria looked toward the distant shore. She could not see the village. It was still far away, very far away. She tightened her hands around the spear. "I will protect you for as long as I can," she said. Just then, another dark fin appeared, then another, then another. Maria's face became serious. She was no longer fighting one shark. She was about to face a whole group. The sea, which had been so peaceful only moments before, was now becoming the greatest challenge of her life. Part 6. She refused to give up. The first shark came quickly. It swam straight toward the boat. Maria stood carefully. The boat rocked from side to side. She held her spear with both hands. The shark opened its mouth. Its sharp teeth flashed in the sunlight. Just as it reached the great fish, Maria struck. The spear hit the shark. The water exploded with white foam. The shark disappeared beneath the waves. For a moment, everything became quiet again. Maria looked around. She knew it was not over. Then another shark appeared. This one was larger. It swam around the boat. Once, twice, 3 times. It was waiting for the right moment. Maria watched every movement. She did not look away. Suddenly, the shark rushed forward. Maria pushed the spear with all her strength. The shark turned at the last second. The spear missed. The shark bit a large piece from the fish. Maria cried out, "No!" She pulled the spear back, but it was too late. Another piece of the fish was gone. More dark fins appeared in the distance. 1, 2, 4, then even more. Maria understood the truth. She could not stop them all. Still, she refused to surrender. She fought every shark that came close, again and again. Her arms became weaker. Her hands were covered with cuts. Her shoulders burned with pain. The wooden spear cracked. Then it broke. Maria looked down at the broken handle. For a second, she stood silently. Then she picked up a heavy wooden oar. "If I still have strength," she whispered, "I still have hope." She swung the oar as another shark attacked. The loud sound echoed across the sea. The shark pulled away, but another one took its place. The battle seemed endless. Hour after hour, the sharks returned. Each attack left less of the great fish. Maria's body was exhausted. Her clothes were wet. Her breathing was heavy, but she kept fighting. Not because she believed she could save every piece of the fish, but because giving up was never her choice. As the sun slowly moved toward the horizon, the attacks became fewer. One by one, the sharks disappeared into the deep water. The sea became quiet once again. Maria looked beside her boat. Only the head, the tail, and the long white bones of the great fish remained. She closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her face. "I did everything I could," she said softly. Then she looked toward the horizon. Far away, she finally saw the village. The lights were beginning to appear. Home was waiting. But Maria knew she would return with something far more valuable than a great fish. She would return with a story of courage that no one would ever forget. Part 7. The Return Home. The sun slowly disappeared below the horizon. The sky turned orange, then purple. Finally, darkness covered the sea. Maria rowed toward the village. Every movement was painful. Her hands were bleeding. Her shoulders were stiff. Her back hurt with every pull of the oars. Still, she continued. The cool night air touched her face. The sea was quiet now. The sharks were gone. Only the sound of the waves remained. After many hours, she finally saw the lights of the village. They looked small in the distance, but they filled her heart with hope. Maria smiled. "I'm home," she whispered. It was very late. Most people were asleep. The beach was empty. She slowly pulled her little boat onto the sand. Then she looked at the great fish. Only its head, its long white bones, and its tail were left. For a moment, Maria stood silently. She remembered the morning. She remembered the long fight. She remembered every moment on the sea. She gently placed her hand on the fish. "Thank you. she said quietly. You gave me the greatest journey of my life. She picked up her old fishing bag. Then she tried to carry the heavy wooden oars. Her body was exhausted. After only a few steps, she stumbled. The oars fell onto the sand. Maria took a deep breath. She stood up again. Slowly, she picked them up. Step by step, she walked toward her little house. The village was silent. The moon shone above her. When she finally reached her door, she opened it quietly. Inside, everything was simple. A small table, an old chair, a narrow bed. She placed her fishing bag on the floor. Then she sat down. For the first time in 2 days, she allowed herself to rest. She looked at her injured hands. They were rough. They were swollen. But she smiled. They still worked, she whispered. A few moments later, she lay down on her bed. Before closing her eyes, she looked through the small window. The stars were shining brightly. They reminded her of the long night on the sea. She smiled once more. Then, still wearing her fishing clothes, she fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. She did not know that the next morning, the entire village would be waiting outside her house. The next morning, the sun rose over the village. The sea was calm. The sky was clear. One fisherman walked down to the beach. He stopped suddenly. His eyes grew wide. He called to the others. Come here. Look at this. Soon more people arrived. Men, women, and children gathered around Maria's boat. No one spoke for a long time. They looked at the enormous skeleton tied beside the boat. The white bones were longer than anyone had ever seen. One old fisherman stepped closer. He touched the strong backbone of the fish. Then he slowly shook his head. I have lived by this sea for 40 years, he said. I have never seen a fish this large. The villagers looked at one another. They remembered their words. They remembered how they had laughed at Maria. They remembered saying she was too old. Now they felt ashamed. A young girl quietly asked, Did Maria catch this fish all by herself? An old woman smiled. Yes, she did. Just then, the door of Maria's little house opened. Maria walked outside slowly. Her hands were covered with bandages. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were bright. The villagers turned toward her. For a moment, no one said anything. Then the oldest fisherman removed his hat. One by one, everyone else did the same. No one clapped. No one shouted. They simply stood in silence. It was a silence filled with respect. Maria looked at them. Then she smiled gently. I didn't bring home the whole fish, she said, but I brought home something even more important. Courage. The villagers never forgot those words. From that day on, no one called Maria weak. No one said she was too old. Instead, they remembered her as the woman who faced the endless sea with nothing but hope, patience, and determination. Sometimes winning does not mean bringing everything home. Sometimes winning means refusing to give up, even when life becomes difficult, even when the journey is long, even when the world tells you to stop. The old woman and the sea reminds us that true strength does not come from age. It comes from the heart. It teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward despite fear. It teaches us that hard work is never wasted. Even when we lose something, we can still gain wisdom, respect, and hope. The sea tested Maria. The storms tested her. The sharks tested her. But none of them could break her spirit. And that was her greatest victory. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this story, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to English Horizon and tell me in the comments, what is the biggest lesson you learned from Maria's journey? Until next time, keep learning, keep reading, and never stop believing in yourself. Goodbye.